From the Edwards vs. Kamaru bout to Bilal's hyped match with Jorge, a lot is happening right now in the MMA world, and Ben Askren just shared his views on the Leon Edwards vs. Kamaru Usman trilogy clash. Askren was once referred to as one of the best welterweights on the planet, and was the prospect of a fight with the Nigerian Nightmare during his time in the UFC, even though his career inside the octagon did not go as planned. But I gotta admit that America's very own Funky was arguably one of the best in his division during his prime. Now, Askren gave insight into the UFC 286 headliner in a social media post. He questioned whether Kamaru Usman would be a little more reserved this time around before making his final prediction for the matchup. What did Leon Edwards gain from his last fight? What he got was hope. He hopes to knock Usman out anytime, even in the 5th round when he's exhausted. Will Usman be more gun-shy after taking a kick to the dome the last time? Maybe and maybe not. Before the finish, Usman was the clear winner, and because of this, Askren decided to go with Usman. He thinks that Leon has a much better chance than he did last time, but Usman's wrestling will be just a little too much, and he even advised who Leon should face next. Based on recent performances, Ben Askren believes Belal Muhammad should be the next opponent for the UFC Welterweight champion Leon Edwards. Muhammad has gone unbeaten in his last 9 fights, defeating ranked fighters Stephen Thompson and Vicente Luque, and the previously unbeaten Sean Brady at UFC 280. But who knows, Leon might be the only exception. He'd be known as the one who will finally break the number 5 UFC welterweight fighter's winning streak. Askren said on Daniel Cormier's YouTube channel that Belal should get the title shot, and they were supposed to fight already. They were both in the cage, and their last bout was comical. Between the fight, there was a bit of poking, so I get why Funky thinks Belal should get it.
I need you to do is I need you to relax, breathe and relax, and let the doctor.
If I take a trip down memory lane and make a stop in March 2021, I'll witness Belal Muhammad and Leon Edwards fight on March 13th in a welterweight bout in the UFC. The fight ended in a controversial no-contest decision after Edwards accidentally poked Muhammad in the eye in the 2nd round, causing him to be unable to continue. The referee deemed the eye poke as accidental, but Muhammad couldn't continue, declaring the fight a no contest. But before the eye poke thing happened, Edwards was controlling the fight with his striking and footwork, while Muhammad was trying to pressure him with his grappling. It's difficult to say who would have won the fight had it not been for the eye poke. It occurred early in the 2nd round, and the fight was relatively close until then. The ending was disappointing, that's for sure, but both fighters showed their skills and toughness in the short time the fight took place. The no contest decision was a bummer for both fighters. They were both looking to make a clear statement in the welterweight division. It didn't go quite as they had planned. Things might be different this time if Edwards pokes his way out with Usman and then faces Belal. But let's analyze these two fighters, shall we? Muhammad and Edwards are both skilled welterweight fighters in the UFC. I'm sure we can all agree with that. Muhammad has a record of 22 wins, 3 losses, and 1 no contest, while Edwards has a record of 21 wins, 3 losses, and 1 no contest. And in terms of their fighting styles, both fighters are well-rounded and have solid striking and grappling skills. But we all know that Rocky is known for his excellent striking and footwork, which he uses to control the distance and pick apart his opponents with precision striking. On the other hand, Muhammad is known for his toughness, durability, and grappling skills. In terms of a potential matchup between the two, it would be a fight worth watching. You know, the one that makes you get the popcorn out. Muhammad's grappling skills could potentially give Edwards some trouble, but Edwards' striking and footwork could allow him to control the fight from the outside. Ultimately, the outcome of the fight would likely depend on which fighter is able to impose their game plan more effectively. So, right now, it's hard to predict who would win in a matchup between Muhammad and Edwards, as both fighters are skilled and have the potential to win. It would be an exciting fight to watch. That I can guarantee you, and would likely be closely contested throughout, so I kinda get why Askren chose these two. But was his previous beef with Usman the reason he picked the British Rocky? If you don't keep up with the MMAT, don't worry, cause I'm about to reheat this one. Ben Askren and Kamaru Usman had a feud in the past, and it all started when the UFC signed Askren in late 2018. Askren, a highly decorated wrestler and former One Championship welterweight champion, was immediately considered a top contender in the welterweight division. At the time, Usman was also a rising contender in the division, and the two fighters began trading verbal jabs on social media and in interviews. Askren even claimed that he would beat Usman easily, saying that he was not impressed by his fighting style. Yikes! But the feud peaked when Askren and Usman had a heated exchange during an episode of the MMA Hour in November 2018. Usman accused Askren of talking too much. And yes, he didn't stop there. The Nigerian Nightmare also mocked Askren for not respecting the other fighters in the division, while Askren said he was simply confident in his abilities and not afraid to speak his mind. Ultimately, the feud between Askren and Usman never led to a fight, since Askren was traded to One Championship in exchange for former UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Johnson. Usman went on to win the UFC Welterweight title in March 2019 and has since defended it successfully multiple times, solidifying his position as one of the top fighters in the division. And Kamaru wasn't the only one Funky had a feud with. Bilal's opponent. Could you stand up for this one? Ben Askren and Jorge Masvidal had a well-publicized feud in the lead-up to their fight at UFC 239 in July 2019. The feud began when Askren, who was undefeated at the time, was traded to the UFC from One Championship in exchange for Demetrius Johnson. Masvidal, who was also a top-ranked welterweight in the UFC, immediately took issue with Askren's confident demeanor and began trash-talking him on social media and in interviews. The feud reached a boiling point during a pre-fight media event when Masvidal landed a flying knee on Askren just seconds into their fight, knocking him out cold and earning the fastest knockout in UFC history. Masvidal continued to taunt Askren after the fight, celebrating with a mock sleeping gesture, and also declared himself the baddest in the UFC. The feud between Askren and Masvidal was a high-profile one, fueled by their mutual dislike of each other and their contrasting fighting styles. Askren was known for his wrestling and grappling skills, while Masvidal was known for his striking and knockout power. The dramatic nature of their fight and the devastating nature of Masvidal's knockout victory made it one of the most memorable moments in UFC history. But hey, let's not make assumptions. These feuds are in the past, and Askren has the experience to give us his predictions. For now, you and I must wait for these highly anticipated bouts. That's all on the shocking prediction of Ben Askren about the next welterweight champion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.